welcome to our latest podcast, Databytes. And today we have the opportunity to talk to Dawn Zappetti, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Amalgamated Bank. My background, I'm Rahul Nawab. I lead the data and AI practice for Prowess Consulting. I've been in the business for over 30 years. Worked for a variety of banks like Capital One, US Bank, and also had my own consulting firm, IQR Consulting, which I eventually sold to EXL. Welcome, Dawn, and thank you for spending your time with us today. I'm sure a lot of our audience would love to understand how the banking world has evolved, and especially for marketing, and what's the intersection with data and AI.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I started out in the field of psychology, thinking that that's what I wanted to do for a career, and decided that it wasn't the right place for me. But I really love psychology, and to me, marketing is a lot about psychology. You're essentially getting people to do something that they either didn't think they needed to do or they don't want to do. So that's how I got into marketing. My foray into banking was a little happenstance. I was in business school and interviewing, and I happened to get interviews at Citi, and I really liked the company, and I liked it so much that I stayed there for most of my career. But I moved around a lot. I moved across businesses. I moved across disciplines within marketing. I started out in very traditional direct marketing. I did things though that were non-traditional. I worked on large product systems projects. I worked on pricing strategy. I ushered in new technologies like a lot of our online capabilities, and I also did brand work. So I really had the opportunity to work in almost all aspects of marketing. And it turned out to actually be a really good thing, because marketing is no longer about specializing. It is about being almost a general manager. And so I ended up being quite qualified for CMO roles, because I had touched a little bit of everything and had depth in many of those things that I had touched.
The intersection of psychology and marketing, and essentially what data and AI is trying to do is to help, from a psychological perspective, predict what a human may not even know that they want or not want. So that's very interesting. And because you have touched a variety of the areas, the next question is almost the most important one for anybody starting a career or at mid-career points, to figure out what are some of the core skills needed to succeed in a career in marketing or in banking marketing, but eventually in both.
Well, like I just said, marketing is you're really like a general manager, and you work with everyone in the company. So you have to have great interpersonal skills. You also have to be able to be very adaptable. Strategies change, and the worst thing is for you to be sitting off in a corner and developing marketing that doesn't support what the business is trying to do. So you need to be adaptable. You often need to translate things that might not be so clear into action. And you need resilience, and you need guts, because many people think that you can throw anything out there and marketing will make it work, and it's not always that easy. If you have a product that doesn't work, or you have a strategy that's questionable, there's not a lot that marketing can do. So I would think those are the key skills.
In the current state, in the current world, a lot of hype is about data and AI helping marketing. In your experience, in your words, what role does that play in driving marketing strategy? How does that play into the whole ecosystem?
It's really important if you want to do efficient marketing. There's no reason at this point in time to just go out and hunt and peck and find the right customer. You need to have data and insights and a little bit of understanding before you start to do. It doesn't mean that everything will be perfect going out the door, but at least you're starting with some viewpoint. I mean, think about it in your day-to-day life. When was the last time you showed up for a meeting with someone, or to go buy a large product where you didn't do your own research first? This is no different. It's just making you smarter about the strategy and the tactics that you deploy.
How would you describe its role in marketing today from a data and AI perspective?
I think they're both core to the business. I mean, you're taking what the business wants to do and you're trying to find the best way to get there. and it's making you smarter about how to get there. It's helping you to understand the customer. It's helping you to understand their behaviors and what they do and where you should be in front of the customer. And it's also helping you, to get the right message out to them.
Absolutely. As we think about integrating data analytics and AI into a marketing setup, what are some of the challenges technologically or otherwise that you foresee and you've experienced in running these types of initiatives where you're essentially left brain, right brain, trying to combine the two into a activity? This is where it all sort of merges, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for a lot of organizations, this is actually newer than you think. And one of the biggest challenges is getting the constituents in the organization to realize that why it's important. And even if somebody says, yeah, I think I need this, or you convince them to, that doesn't mean that they understand at every step of the way when you're providing insights and you're sharing some what you've learned from the data. They may not have the language to learn to understand that. It is almost like a different language. And then I think on the flip side, you have companies who understand that, but they don't yet understand the particulars of why this data, why this AI thing, especially with AI. Everybody wants to have AI right now, but AI is not one thing, it's many, and data is not one thing, it's many. And so being able to articulate the value of it, to get it in the language that people know, how this is helping them to get their objectives, is really critical. I mean, that's why I think it's really important when you're choosing a data partner to choose wisely. Have someone, like Prowess, who is an expert in their field, who understands, who's been in businesses, they've sat on both sides of the fence, and so they understand how the audience thinks, and they can work, you can work together to craft that message.
Really appreciate that, those kind words, Dawn. Absolutely. You touched on a very important topic, the hype of AI, which absolutely, I mean, anywhere you go, it's a boardroom discussion, it's a CEO discussion, it's a discussion at every level. And everybody wants AI, Gen AI, and they all think it's easy. They all think it's possible and it should be done yesterday. So what is your advice, your experience with AI and Gen AI?
It's interesting. Yeah, I was at a dinner last night where AI and change was a topic, and I was at in an industry conference call yesterday about AI. So I mean, there's no shortage of conversation about AI, and I think like anything else, there's a lot of value, but you have to make it sure you're choosing the value that works for you. I think in marketing, it's going to be incredibly helpful in terms of productivity. I think it actually can really help if done right with personalization, but that doesn't mean that every AI solution is going to do that. Or if you just sort of broadly say, I want to embed AI in my business, and not understand what you're actually trying to get out of the use of AI and which tools are the best, then you're just playing around with AI. So no one should think it's a silver bullet, but we should all be leveraging what's out there and understanding it, because that is the future, and it's just going to go from there. So if you're not actively investing in AI solutions, if you're not testing them right now, you're going to find yourself far behind the curve in a short amount of time.
And in your experience, are there the top 2 or 3 in marketing? Like personalization seems like
I think personalization. I think the marketing is a lot of mechanics, right? There's lots of places where you're writing copy. You don't necessarily need humans on all of that copy. You also don't necessarily need to start with humans. You can start with AI and then put a human eye to it. There are some things that you wouldn't want to have AI do, either start or at all, but there's a lot of things that we work on in marketing that are just, they're tactical, and we have to get them out the door. There's also, when you think about many marketing campaigns, you start with a hero text or a hero creative asset, and then you're replicating it into many different other places that's something that AI can actually do very easily versus taking someone from the team or your agency and having them now take that and put it into all of the different formats that you want to use.
Absolutely, and that is one of the very interesting use cases that we've seen also in the market. The benefits of that type of a use case is greater than 40-50% in terms of the time savings. I'm not even talking about cost savings, because most of the energy when you're thinking about personalization is spent in trying to get everything approved and made, while if you can at least release some of the time from the creation of a copy, you can create more and more personalization, where in retail they don't have the entire same legal approval and compliance approval cycles as we do in banking.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of things that if we can take out some of the rote things and the more menial work that everyone has to do, it just means there's more time for creativity, there's more time for strategy, there's more time for thinking, and that's what I'd like the teams to be doing, not necessarily doing something that is their energies are better served elsewhere.
Absolutely. So, Dawn, you've been in the banking industry for a while. What are some of the biggest opportunities for banks to leverage analytics more effectively over a longer period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the opportunity to truly understand your customer and to be able to communicate them in a way that is meaningful to them. We all get far too many emails, far too much just noise into all aspects of our lives. And so the more that you can actually understand your customer and you can understand what makes them tick, where is their mindset, what might they be actually thinking about purchasing or doing, the better it is. The interesting thing I think for banking is that we all know that the brands that people use are not an accident. They choose brands that either they like the quality or something about them makes them feel good. They trust them. More and more people really care about the values of a brand. And I don't think in banking we have looked at it that way. I don't think we think about the fact that a bank brand is really just like a shoe brand, or where you work out, what car you buy, that where you bank is actually can be an important brand. And the way to get that is to have someone feel like this bank actually understands me, they know me and they understand me. And you can't do that any other way but with data and insights and analytics and even AI.
What do you see in the next 2 to 5 years to 10 years horizon in terms of how the banking industry and marketing will evolve? What are some of the trends you see in the future?
Well, I think some of it is similar to what we were just talking about. I do believe that there will be a trend towards personalization in banking. I think everybody wants that, both the customer and the banks. It's become a little bit impersonal. And ironically, I think data and AI will actually help us to get more personal. So I think that is something you will continue to see improve. I also think that fintechs and banks started out as fierce competitors, and they've learned that in partnering, that they can bring the best of both worlds together and really learn from each other and help each other. And I think that's going to be great for the consumer as well. And then lastly, it's interesting, banking has not always been the most inclusive, and we rely on a set of standards when we're evaluating credit or many other banking decisions. And I think that is, born out of a lot of experience, but it doesn't work for everyone. And there's a lot of people who are not in the banking system who can be and should be. And I think with a lot more data out there at our fingertips that we can use, we can start to look a little bit more broadly at some of those people that might not fit into the traditional category. And the repercussions of that are enormous. You take communities, you take people in communities that have not traditionally had access to banking, and you open up doors for new business development and jobs, and that's something that I think we can all agree is much needed. So I hope that the banking system can start to think a little bit more creatively about the data that we use to make those decisions.
That is a great insight, because we know that unbanked or underbanked population is only growing, not declining, and figuring out more interesting ways to tap into that market is going to be very, very critical as we look into the future. And like you're saying, it'll create more jobs, more opportunities for across the board professionals. great insights so far in terms of how the banking industry has evolved, marketing has evolved. One last question. What advice would you give to professionals aspiring to join this industry? What are some of the key skills for marketing and for banking that they should start learning and start embracing as they grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot, as we've talked about, I think that adaptability, the ability to pivot and just to be really adaptable, because things will change and marketing is changing and whatever industry you're in is likely changing. I do think one of the things I advise people all the time is don't get hung up on how you start in marketing. Marketing is multifaceted. There are many different types of roles, and it almost doesn't matter where you start. What matters is, are you going to learn something in that role, and does it give you a jumping off ground for another part of marketing, should you either not like the first one or you just want to keep delving into other areas. So just get involved in whatever way you can, and then go from there. You can't lose. And most importantly, work on developing a thick skin, because you're going to need it.
That seems like the most important part, because I know you have to test and learn, and learning is just as important as winning. So I appreciate all the insights, and I hope everybody on the audience has got a lot out of it. This is going to be my final question, and as we think about the future, and frankly, for us, the future is here in terms of AI. Now, when we look forward, the next 2 years or 5 years, what do you see? What are some of the biggest changes or opportunities that you see coming up that we should all be prepared for?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it tees off of the question we just discussed, which is, I think there is going to be more personalization. I really do think that. I think everyone would agree that banking has become a little bit impersonal. I think there is a desire to have the human aspect in it, but ironically, I think it's going to be AI and data that are going to enable us to get to that human aspect. I think that fintechs and banks, traditional banks, started out as competitors, and I think more and more you're going to see partnerships, and because they each realize that they have something to bring to the table and something to benefit from. And I think you'll see more and more of that, which I think is great. And then the last thing that I think we'll see, or maybe I hope we'll see, is that there'll be more inclusivity. Banking has not traditionally been open to everyone, especially people who have not been in the banking system before. Getting started in that banking system is difficult. And I think that we did some research recently that shows that that objective is authentic for a bank, and people actually want banks to do that. So I hope that that's something that we will tackle as an industry in the coming years.
Those are great insights. Thank you very much for spending the time with us, and really appreciate it. Wish you all the best.